Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Wednesday, December 30th, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing the approval of Margenza as part of a combination treatment regimen for HER2-positive breast cancer, and the approval of Orgovyx for the treatment of advanced prostate cancer. The more important news, though, this week is the issuance of an EUA for the second COVID vaccine, this time from Moderna. And as always, feel free to skip around. I'm going to include times in the show notes so you get the drugs that interest you. So first up this week, the FDA approved margetuximab, which goes by brand name Margenza, in combination with chemotherapy for the treatment of adult patients with metastatic HER2-positive breast cancer who have received 2 or more prior anti-HER2 regimens, at least one of which was for metastatic disease. Efficacy was evaluated in SOPHIA, a randomized multi-center open-label trial of 536 patients with IHC3 positive or ISH amplified HER2-positive metastatic breast cancer who had received prior treatment with other anti-HER2 therapies. Patients were randomized 1-to-1 to Margenza plus chemotherapy or Herceptin plus chemotherapy. Randomization was stratified by chemotherapy choice, number of lines of therapy in the metastatic setting, and number of metastatic sites. The main efficacy outcome measures were progression-free survival and overall survival. Additional efficacy outcome measures were objective response rate and duration of response. Median progression-free survival in the Margenza arm was 5.8 months compared to 4.9 months in the control arm. Confirmed overall response rate was 22% with a median duration of response of 6.1 months in the Margenza arm, compared to an overall response rate of 16% and median duration of response of 6 months in the control arm. The most common adverse reactions with Margenza in combination with chemotherapy are typical with other chemotherapy regimens, in addition to infusion-related reactions, palmar-plantar erythrodysesthesia, and extremity pain. The prescribing information includes a boxed warning to advise healthcare professionals of the risks of left ventricular dysfunction and embryo-fetal toxicity. The recommended Margenza dose is 15 milligrams per kilogram by IV infusion over 120 minutes for the initial dose, then over a minimum of 30 minutes every 3 weeks for all subsequent doses. On days when both Margenza and chemotherapy are to be administered, Margenza may be administered immediately after chemotherapy completion. You can refer to the respective prescribing information for each therapeutic agent administered in combination with Margenza for the recommended dosage information as appropriate. Also this week, the FDA approved Orgovyx, which goes by brand name Orgovyx, for the treatment of adult patients with advanced prostate cancer. The American Cancer Society estimates that in 2020, there will be more than 190,000 cases of prostate cancer in the U.S. One of the treatment options for advanced prostate cancer is androgen deprivation therapy, which uses drugs to lower levels of the hormones that help prostate cancer cells grow. Current FDA-approved treatments of this type are injected or placed as small implants under the skin. Orgovyx is an orally administered treatment that works by blocking the pituitary gland from making hormones called luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, thereby reducing the amount of testosterone the testicles are able to make. The safety and efficacy of Orgovyx was evaluated in a randomized, open-label trial in men with advanced prostate cancer. The patients randomly received either Orgovyx once daily or injections of leuprolide, another hormone-targeting drug, every 3 months for 48 weeks. The objective was to determine if Orgovyx achieved and maintained low enough levels of testosterone by day 29 through the end of the treatment course. In the 622 patients who received Orgovyx, the castration rate was 96.7%. The most common side effects of Orgovyx include hot flush, increased glucose, increased triglycerides, musculoskeletal pain, decreased hemoglobin, and increased liver enzymes. Androgen deprivation therapies such as Orgovyx may affect the heart's electrical properties or cause electrolyte abnormalities. Therefore, healthcare providers should consider periodic monitoring of electrocardiograms and electrolytes. Based on findings in animals and the mechanism of action, Orgovyx can cause fetal harm and loss of pregnancy when administered to a pregnant female. It is advised that males with female partners of reproductive potential use effective contraception during treatment and for 2 weeks after the last dose of Orgovyx. Due to the drug's suppression of the pituitary gonadal system, diagnostic test results of the pituitary gonadotropic and gonadal functions conducted during and after taking Orgovyx may be affected. And finally today, the FDA issued an emergency use authorization for the second vaccine for the prevention of COVID-19 caused by SARS-CoV-2. The emergency use authorization allows the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine to be distributed in the U.S. for use in individuals 18 years of age and older. And just like the Pfizer vaccine that we talked about in the last episode, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine contains messenger RNA. The vaccine contains a small piece of the SARS-CoV-2 virus's mRNA that instructs cells in the body to make the virus's distinct spike protein. After a person receives this vaccine, their body produces copies of the spike protein, which does not cause disease, but triggers the immune system to learn to react defensively, producing an immune response against SARS-CoV-2. The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is administered as a series of 2 doses, 1 month apart. The available safety data to support the EUA include an analysis of 30,351 participants enrolled in an ongoing randomized placebo-controlled study conducted in the U.S. These participants, 15,185 of whom received the vaccine and 15,166 of whom received saline placebo, were followed for a median of more than 2 months after receiving the second dose. The most commonly reported side effects, which typically lasted several days, were pain at the injection site, tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, joint pain, and fever. Of note, more people experience these side effects after the second dose than after the first dose, so it's important for vaccination providers and recipients to expect that there may be some side effects after either dose, but even more so after the second dose. The effectiveness data to support the EUA include an analysis of 28,207 participants in the ongoing randomized placebo-controlled U.S. study who did not have evidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection prior to the first dose of the vaccine. Among those participants, 14,134 received the vaccine and 14,073 received placebo. The vaccine was 94.1% effective in preventing COVID-19 disease among these clinical trial participants, with 11 cases of COVID-19 in the vaccine group and 185 in the placebo group. At the time of the analysis of these 196 COVID-19 cases, none in the vaccine group and 30 in the placebo group were classified as severe. After the analysis of these 196 cases was completed, one severe case in the vaccine group was identified and is awaiting confirmation. At this time, data is not available to determine how long the vaccine will provide protection, nor is there evidence that the vaccine prevents transmission of SARS-CoV-2 from person to person. Moderna has also submitted a pharmacovigilance plan to the FDA to monitor the safety of their COVID-19 vaccine. The pharmacovigilance plan includes a plan to complete long-term safety follow-up for participants enrolled in the ongoing clinical trials. The pharmacovigilance plan also includes other activities aimed at monitoring the safety profile of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine and ensuring that any safety concerns are identified and evaluated in a timely manner. The FDA also expects manufacturers whose COVID-19 vaccines are authorized under the EUA to continue their clinical trials to obtain additional safety and effectiveness information and pursue approval. The EUA will be effective until the declaration that circumstances exist justifying the authorization of the emergency use of drugs and biologics for prevention and treatment of COVID-19 is terminated. The EUA for Moderna COVID-19 vaccine may be revised or revoked if it is determined the EUA no longer meets the statutory criteria for issuance. And that's all I have for right now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.